Raptors fans have been calling for the Toronto Raptors to make some big moves ahead of this year's trade deadline, and this could potentially be the start of the transaction-heavy mid-season for Masai Ujiri and Bobby Webster, as we had a waiving and a signing for the team of the past couple days, so we'll discuss that, including an Otto Porter Jr. injury update, and after my little tirade, my little rant last night following the loss to the Charlotte Hornets, there was one or two positives that I didn't address in yesterday's video that I did want to touch on. So lots of stuff to break down. Before we jump into that, folks, guys, it's going to be a pretty crazy mid-season, I speculate, and if you want to stay along for the ride, over half of our viewers are not subscribed to the channel. It would mean the world to me if you guys could hit that sub button, but let's jump into the news. The first thing we're taking a look at is the Raptors making a couple of moves. Now, this isn't some game-changing blockbuster deal from Masai Ujiri. In fact, this isn't even something he probably would have done if his hand hadn't been forced, but unfortunately, Ron Harper Jr. has been waived by the Toronto Raptors and now opened up a two-way roster spot for the group, as Ron Harper Jr. ended up having a season-ending injury. So first things first, I just want to say prayers up to Ron Harper Jr. He's a guy that didn't get a lot of opportunities with the Toronto Raptors, had some solid moments with the 905, can shoot the three, space to the floor, play some defense. Hopefully there's a spot in the NBA for Ron Harper Jr., but it's unlikely it's going to be with the Toronto Raptors in the future. But Masai Ujiri was pretty quick to sort of fill up that two-way roster spot, as we had a little minor Woj bomb come out regarding the Toronto Raptors yesterday, as basically free agent Jonte Porter is signing a two-way contract with the Toronto Raptors. He spent a season with the Memphis Grizzlies and has been playing with Detroit's G League franchise. So Jonte Porter is the brother of Michael Porter Jr. So a couple Porters here now on the Toronto Raptors roster. Otto Porter Jr. and Jonte Porter are not related from my understanding, but he seems like a guy that's an interesting piece. Now, if you look at his stats last year for the Memphis Grizzlies, you're not going to see much. You're not going to see a lot. He's a guy that's 24 years old. He's 6'11", so he has a lot of height. He plays the power forward position and is a dude for the Memphis Grizzlies last year. 2 points per game, 1 rebound, shot 37% from the three-point line, 60% from the free throw line. But again, percentages are really tough to gauge when you have a small sample size in terms of what he's doing. Again, his sibling is Michael Porter Jr., so you can kind of expect the style of game from Jontay Porter, in terms of what they're doing. Has had a little bit of an injury history, just like his brother and things along those lines. But the more insightful stats, the more insightful deep dive we'll get from Jonte is his performance in the G League. It's basically, over the past couple seasons, he's played a lot of games in the G League, or relatively a lot, and he's putting up some buckets, just like his brother. This season averaging 17 points per game, 14 points per game last year. Last season averaged 41% from behind the three-point stripe, which is a really great stat to see. And a bigger sample size, still not a great free throw shooter, but again, a guy that takes a lot of threes, is confident to sort of fill up that box score in terms of taking shots. And frankly, this is exactly what the Toronto Raptors need off the bench, is more guys that can sort of put the ball in the hole, can score at will, because our defense is solid for most stretches in these games. It's just our offense ends up going through these horrific lulls. I'm not saying Jontay Porter is going to be signed and change this season and fix everything that we have going on, but if we're going to be looking at prospects, Porter's only 24 years old. I like the route that we've sort of been going, rather than just sort of our archetype of 6'8", athletic, and plays really good defense, but really struggles to put the ball in the hole. Masai Ujiri, with his latest round of two-way contracts and deep bench signings, has gone to look for a little bit more shooting, a little bit more just unorthodox potential, rather than the traditional Toronto Raptors players we've been seeing as of late. So Jontay Porter is a guy that I think it's a cool signing. There's no one really on the market I'd be more interested in to bring in a two-way slot for. Hopefully there's opportunities. Definitely the Raptors end up shaking things up. There might be a lot of sort of room for our deep bench guys to get some opportunities to run in the second half of the season, but we'll see what ends up happening. That's not a guaranteed thing here at this point either, but welcome Jontay Porter. Wishing all the best to Ron Harper Jr. But the next thing we're taking a look at is an Otto Porter Jr. injury update. Now, Otto Porter Jr. is a guy that sort of left the Toronto Raptors, or joined the Toronto Raptors last year and basically left due to injury, is dealing with a lot of sort of issues that have prevented him from getting out there on the court. And This season, people have been clamoring for him to get more minutes, and I have rung that bell as well because Otto Porter Jr. is a vet. He can shoot the three, plays defense. He's just a stabilizing presence off the bench for this Raptors team. But unfortunately, news has come out that basically Otto Porter Jr. left last night with a foot contusion, and the Porter went for X-rays, and they ended up coming back negative. So I guess that's a positive. But the fact that we're still dealing with these sort of injuries for Otto Porter Jr. is unfortunate. His stats this season are definitely down. Right, playing in 11 games, only 11 minutes per night, scoring 2.5 points per game. For the contract, for the excitement that we had when we ended up bringing Otto Porter Jr. into the group, it felt like this is a big signing because he's a vet that was starting on a championship caliber team, but so far his tenure with the Toronto Raptors has been less than lackluster. So I don't know. If the Raptors do end up making a push, do end up turning things around somehow now at this point, I think Otto Porter Jr. can be a valuable bench piece. But the unfortunate thing is right now we won't even get any value if we do end up trading him away to another squad. Maybe we could hope for a second round pick or something like that. But package him as sort of salary filler in a potential deal. I don't really know, but I'm an Otto Porter Jr. fan. I think he's a great NBA player when he's actually out there on the court, but the fact that he can't stay out there on the court or can be relied upon to play, every single game, a decent amount of minutes, it just sucks. So wish you the best for Otto Porter Jr. Hopefully it's not serious. Glad that the X-rays came back negative. But the last thing I sort of want to discuss in this video is a couple positives for this Raptors team. Following my little tirade last night during the middle of the game, I recorded it. The Raptors down by 20 in the second quarter against the Charlotte Hornets, and I said, you know what? I still watched the end of the game. Still tuned back in. The Raptors aren't going to let me go just like that, or I'm not going to let them go just like that, even if I have a frustrated rant that I recorded at halftime, post immediately after. Fun little video. Definitely check that out if you haven't already. But I will say there were a couple positives. I even said during that tirade that it's likely the Toronto Raptors end up coming back, making a push or whatever, things along those lines. But they did look demoralized for a big chunk of that game. But Scottie Barnes, once again, down the stretch, 12 of 18 from the field, 31 points, 10 rebounds, 10 assists. I know it's against the Charlotte Hornets. I know he missed the game winner, all that type of stuff. But, he was solid. And Precious Achiuwa in this one, showing off a bit of the potential. 17 points, 10 rebounds off the bench. Only 22 minutes, which I found interesting. Pascal also was solid in this one. Again, my gripes are weirdly just not with the individual players. I don't think anyone's been egregiously bad for this team except for, really Otto Porter Jr.'s ability to stay on the court. Little nitpicks here and here with the different players, but we have some talented guys on this group, which makes this mid-level sort of situation the Toronto Raptors are in that much more heartbreaking because we're going to have to deal with guys that are probably going to play well for their future teams, going to, be like the O'Shea Brissetts, the Yuta Watanabes, the guys that leave our team, leave our group, and then end up blossoming for other rosters. So it's positive that Scottie Barnes is elite. Obviously, he will stay with the Toronto Raptors for a very long time. No way the Raptors trade him anytime soon, but we'll see what ends up happening with this Raptors group. But you guys are the best to make the start. Subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. I'm signing out. Cheers.